But since a few people have been asking, I will explain my philosophy about discipline, because I think I have a little bit of a controversial opinion about discipline. So the little teaser I gave last night was that I completely disagree with discipline in just like every single way. And my explanation was that I think the modern kind of today's perspective, or like today's version of discipline, is to make yourself do things, to force yourself, to ignore your emotions and to suppress them and just do the thing, just force yourself. Like that's what I think most people think discipline is these days. It's just fuck your feelings, just do it. You know, like your feelings don't matter. And so when you do that, when you force yourself to do something that you don't want to do, I just feel like it never works. It never, ever, ever works. Because think about it logically, like how can you? It's a very logical thing to say, if I want the outcomes I want in life, then all I need to do is take the actions that create that outcome. You know, because if you break it down to its like core principles, core functions, it sounds on the face of it very logical. You want the life you want, just do the things to get it. That's all that matters. But if you are actually a logical person, if you are truly logical, then you will understand and accept that human beings are fundamentally emotional creatures. And so it's actually a very the most illogical thing you could possibly do is to ignore that fact, ignore that we do have emotions that have to be listened to in an effort to just do things that we don't want to do. So it sounds logical, but it's actually incredibly illogical because it doesn't make sense. It goes completely against everything that makes humans humans. We are emotional creatures, we have thoughts and feelings, and you can't ignore that. So that's why I think discipline doesn't work. I think it works in the short term, but if you want any kind of long-term success, it's not going to work. No matter who you are, you will not be able to force yourself to do things for long enough to get success, because success takes a long time and you will burn out years, months or years before you even get close to success. So I think discipline is this huge lie that people on the internet say because it sounds, like I said, on the face of it, very logical, very easy to understand. And so it's easily accepted by people who don't really have the experience to know that it's wrong. I think discipline is completely wrong. Now, I don't think discipline is completely useless, which I will say I'll explain in a second. There are uses for discipline, okay? But the other thing I kind of hinted at yesterday was that I think you can get the effect of discipline as a byproduct of doing something much better and much easier than actually discipline itself, right? And so this is my whole philosophy, is that we are these emotional creatures and you should actually be mastering your emotions and aligning your emotions with the target actions you want, because then it feels easier. You're not forcing yourself, you want to do it. And I mean, see, this is where it kind of expands into a lot that I'll do my best to explain. So let me get a little, that'll take too long. So I think if you want to get the outcomes you want in life, then you have to control your actions to get them. Your outcomes in life are controlled by your actions. Your actions are controlled by your decisions and choices, and your decisions are controlled by your feelings and your emotions. And your feelings and emotions are controlled by your thoughts. So that's, if you work backwards, that's how you get the life you want. You have to go right through that chain of command, because what you think determines what you feel, which determines the decisions and choices you make, which determines your actions, which determines the outcomes in your life. And so you have to skip kind of right to the start of that and go through every process. And if you think about it, this makes much more sense. Like, we all experience this in our lives every single day. Our actions are determined by our emotions. This is why we always want, we have every intention. We know that we should work all day, every day. And that's what we want to do. But what do we always do? We always don't do that. We, watch content, scroll on our phones, and this big gap between what we know we should do to get the life we want and the actions we actually take, that's an emotional gap. And that's why you find it hard, why everyone finds it hard to do the things that lead to the life they want. So if this wasn't the case, if it was not true that our emotions are what drive our actions, then everybody would be living the perfect lives. Everybody would be doing the things that they knew they should do. And therefore, obviously there's luck and stuff, but for the most part, everybody would have the lives that they want. It's because we fail to do the things that we know logically we should do, that we don't do them. And we don't do them because we are emotionally compelled to do other things, because some things are hard, and so we don't want to do them because our emotions don't want us to, because it's an unpleasurable experience to do hard things. And that's why we scroll social media and stuff like that, because it's what we are emotionally compelled to do, even though we know we shouldn't do it. So you can replicate the effects of discipline, which is consistently taking the actions that you know will lead to the outcome you want. Instead of using discipline to do that, you can replicate the same effect by controlling your emotions to kind of will yourself to do them, rather than fighting yourself constantly. And I know the break time has run out, but let me just finish off, because the way you do that, the way you control your emotions, remember, it's your thoughts that control your emotions. And so if you want to control your emotions, you have to control your thoughts. That's where the start of the chain of command begins. And so you have to have a very clear, detailed, vivid, and emotional purpose, one that is enough to drive you to take the actions you want to take. Not motivation, purpose. Because motivation has its own problems. Purpose is like a deeper version of motivation. So you have to have this strong purpose to begin with. You have to create that. And then every single morning, this is what I do in my daily journaling. This is why I talk about journaling and give you guys all of the free journal templates. Because one of the first questions that you answer every single morning on the journal is, why are the tasks that I want to do today important? And so you're engaging with a daily ritual every single morning that forces you to think about your purpose, this thing that you desperately want in life, the reason you do anything. And you answer that question, and it makes you think about it every single morning, and makes you think about why the tasks, the actions that you need to take to get that outcome, why they are necessary. And then once you're thinking about it in your head, not only are you there for more emotionally compelled to take those actions, because you know now it's not a decision between completing the essay and scrolling your phone. Now the stakes are much higher. It's a decision between achieving your dream and giving up on your dream. And so when you're in that mindset, when you have those thoughts in your head, you are much more emotionally compelled to take the actions required to get the outcome you want. Not only that though, but it means that throughout the rest of the day, because you've thought about this first thing in the morning, the entire rest of your day, because it's in your head, every decision and every action will be filtered through that purpose. And so everything that you do throughout the whole rest of the day will bring you closer to that purpose, because you're thinking about it, because you haven't forgotten it, and because you're not defaulting to the path of least resistance and distractions and everything like that. And instead, now you want to do it. And when you want to do these things, it's much easier to do than if you just force yourself. And that's why discipline sucks, and why emotional mastery is the true answer, because you can get the effect of discipline without having to force yourself. And instead, now it feels easy, now you want to do it, and so you do it. Boom. And so that's why I journal so much. That's why I journal every single morning. What do you think, guys? God. Should we get back to work? Thank you for listening to my TED Talk, everybody. I appreciate all of your patience